Thank you very much, Radia, for coming back on the show. And every time you come on, you share a little bit something special.
Thanks.
And I think last time we cooked something and you were making some tea, and we're
Yes,
like, ooh, can you come back on and teach us how to make some tea?
correct.
And so we are making Moroccan breakfast.
Right. So today
Take it
is
away.
the day. Yes. So the tea, since you brought this up, the tea is very important in the Moroccan culture. We have tea during, in our breakfast. We also have tea after lunch. And I know that we have tea once we come back from school, usually around 5 or 6 p.m. When we used to come back from school, we'd have, it's not dinner, it's like snacking. We will have a lot of snacks going on, and we will have also tea with it. So it's basically like breakfast, but during the evening. It's around 6 p.m. It's not dessert. You're not from Morocco. You don't know.
When you say tea, what kind of tea do you mean? Because
So
in the US,
basically,
where I live, tea means very caffeinated, very sugar, otherwise known as sweet tea, and it's stronger than coffee.
in Morocco, it's not stronger than coffee. It's not black tea. It's green tea.
Okay.
And we cook it. We make our tea in a teapot. This is how a teapot looks like.
With the cozy. Yeah. Is that a tea cozy to go over the pot?
Here's my teapot. It's just a little teeny one.
Yeah, this one is Asian. This one is Moroccan. And basically, we start by heating the water. And I will show you the details, but we make Moroccan tea with green tea, mint, sugar, of course, and water. In my case, for
Teapot I
example,
got in Morocco.
what?
It's my teapot I got in Morocco long ago.
Oh, right. I
Yeah,
see it. Yeah, I have 2 kinds.
Yeah,
This
what's
one
it
is
Let me
like?
see, Maureen.
This is a second one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. This one
I
is
really
liver.
like it. I got
So I have this one. It's another kind, but this one has legs, and it goes especially in stoves where there is gas, because it can sit on top of that stove. But in electric gas, this one is more practical because it's not having legs.
It's flat bottom.
Yeah.
You
So
drink
what
the
kind of
milk?
metal is it? Silver?
Silver, yes, it's silver from the outside, but it's not silver actually from the inside. From the inside, it's mostly gonna be.
Did you ever use like a clay pot like this one, like a clay teapot?
No, we don't use that.
You always cook it right in the pot.
My
You
son
don't
is
serve it separate? Yeah.
No, we cook it in the pot and we serve it like this. We need something like that to hold the
Okay.
ear.
Oh, the handle gets hot.
Because it's gonna be too hot. But for the clay pot, I do have a clay pot here. It's basically like a jar, but it's mainly made for water. See?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow, that's
But
nice.
this one is made for water, and the clay is known for its purifying effect. So it filters the water.
And it also stay cool in that pot, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
stay cool
I've seen the clay pots of water just set outside and it stays cool all day long.
That's right.
Yeah, especially
By
during summer.
evaporation.
All right.
Okay.
You drink milk with your tea?
No, it's not like the British tea or Middle Eastern or anything. Just green tea, water, a lot of mint, and it depends how many sugar you want to put in your tea. In my case, it's been a few years since I started drinking it, taking it without any sugar. But I know in Morocco, if you go there, you need to specify that you want it without sugar. Otherwise, it's going to be a little too sweet if you go to a cafe or something like that.
Do you ever do it with honey?
You can put honey if you want. But you know, with sugar, sugar enhance the taste somehow, and you know, make the mint more pronounced in the tea, more than the honey, or even, you know, blind without anything.
So you have green tea and mint, or it's all mint? The
Green
tea.
tea plus mint. And there is a lot of kind of mints in Morocco, so you can mix them all.
Okay.
I like chocolate mint, but I don't know if that would be very good for a tea.
I don't know, I never tried it, to be honest. But we have
Lemon mint, yeah.
yeah, you can mix a bunch of varieties. I even add verbena, which is not a mint type of plant, but it's a plant that suits you, especially during the night. If you're not, sleep peacefully, you can have it during the night.
Herbal tea, yeah.
No, it's verbena, and I mean it's also good for kids when they have fever, and they help reduce the fever, because it adds liquid to their body, but also it reduces the fever. So it's very good to the kids. And when you have like belly cramps or something like that during a specific period of time, you can also have it, because it's gonna warm you up. So yeah, it's good. And I used to give it to my kids when they were babies, because it's known for its ability to relieve gas. So when they were babies and they had a lot of gas, and they were crying all the time, you just give them a small teaspoon, and after they drink it and it's warm, after they drink it, it's just gonna release all the gas they have, and it's gonna just relieve them, basically.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is about the tea, and to make the tea, first of all, we will need to start by heating the water. So if you're gonna follow the recipe with me,
So for me, when it's winter, I have a gas stove and I have a pilot light. It's just warm spot right here.
yes,
And so I just keep this pot right on here, and I have it full of mint leaves. And that's how I just leave it on my stove all the time. That's how I do my tea.
yeah,
But-
I do that too. For example, if I make the tea in the morning, I keep it, for the day, and I just add water and reheat it again. But I make sure to not, keep it more than one day, or at least, 1.5 days, because the taste changes, and the water taste become,
Oh, it's definitely better fresh. Yeah, you don't want it sitting for a long
They
time.
get bitter,
taste.
maybe bitter after.
So
it's
is it more important we start making the tea first or the bread first?
When we're gonna start let's start by making the bread, because it's gonna need around 20 minutes to half an hour to sit, to absorb the milk, and then we can start making tea and chichari at the same time.
Okay.
Let me just
Let's
get
see. You
out
said
of the kitchen.
And I'm gonna help.
for the bread we need flour, we
Nothing.
need baking powder, butter, olive oil or vegetable oil, and milk. And then what else? There was something else.
So we
I
need
think to put on top of it, you said cream cheese and olives, right?
Oh, the
That's to put on
semolina.
top.
very fine semolina.
Yeah.
Very thin, it's not quite as a flour texture. It's semolina, but very thin, as I said.
Okay.
Semolina almost is like ground up pasta to me.
It's like couscous, but very thin. I know couscous is very thick. So semolina is the smallest version possible.
So
So I'm gonna make,
Lila, I couldn't find any semolina, so I just have to use all-purpose flour.
no, it's not gonna work with the.
Not going to work?
No.
Oh dear.
Maybe try it with corn flour.
Oh,
Cornmeal. We saw
Or,
cornmeal.
yeah,
Cornmeal,
but
oh.
it's
Yeah,
not
let me
gonna
try
work
that.
with flour. It's never. I mean, it's not gonna be the same at all. It's not gonna even, give you the right texture or cook or anything.
Oh, oh dear.
Yeah, it needs to
well,
be.
Maureen, how about I try it with the corn flour, you try it with the regular flour, and
Mhm.
we compare because we're basically making a little cake, right? A little bread cake.
But you can't do gluten.
No, it's not gonna work, but you can try. But I mean, I'm 100% sure it's not gonna work, and it's not gonna be the same thing because you know the flour you need to work the dough. But in this case, we're not gonna work the dough because you know the semolina will absorb all the liquids that you're gonna put in, and at the end, it's just gonna give us that paste that we wanna cook. So I'm gonna just grab my measurement tools, and for this recipe, I just need a bowl. It's gonna be my measurements. So grab any bowl you have. I have this one, and it's the one I'm gonna be measuring with. I'm also gonna need a cup, and we always use in Morocco. We always use the teacup as measurements for butter and oils and things like that. So I'm gonna use this for the butter. But now let's get the semolina.
So should I melt some butter or can I use olive oil?
Yes, we will melt the butter mixed with olive oil. I'm gonna just put this down a little bit so you can see what I'm doing.
Because my problem is my butter is.
So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna pour 2 bowls. I want to help. This is the first one. And this is the second one.
So did you just leave your butter sitting outside for like a while?
No, and we will need to melt it. I'm gonna
Okay.
take half of a stick. I'm gonna put it in my cup of tea. I'm gonna also add some olive oil to it, like big 3 tablespoons of it. I'm gonna also add a little bit of vegetable oil.
Is semolina just a pasta?
Kind of, it's made from the same.
I mean, couscous is a pasta.
I think it's the wheat that they transform to this texture. It's very thin, as you can see. It's crumbly. It's like I don't know, sand. It's the same texture as sand. Yeah. So now I'm gonna put this on my microwave in the option melt, and we'll have it melt, and then we'll start mixing up. But before that, I will
Let's see, you said half a stick. So I don't have a microwave, so I'll have to melt it on the pot here, but it'll take me a second. So, yeah, mine will take a little longer because I keep my butter in the freezer.
Oh.
So half a stick, you mean like 1 stick is 1/4 of a pound?
Well, 1 stick is 113 grams.
Correct.
So I took half of it.
Okay.
So that would be 4 tablespoons.
4 tablespoons. 4
Of
tablespoons.
butter, okay. And
Or-
then
or 2
add
ounces.
vegetable
So-
oil and olive oil to make like a tea glass. Or
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I'm gonna start by mixing the dry ingredient, which is the baking powder.
So you're not measuring anything. You're just putting a lot of baking powder.
No, don't worry. This is a big tablespoon, like 7 grams. It's hard for me to convert it. It's 7 grams. And then you can add salt as you can add sugar. But I skip it.
So
Just because I know I'm gonna be adding butter after that once it's cooked, or I'm gonna be adding jam or something like that. So I don't wanna give it that I don't want it to be too sweet or too salty. So I don't
But
add
you could put, you said salt and sugar to it if you were just
Yeah.
going to eat it plain.
I mean, nobody eat it plain, but you can add this. Yeah, but you know, it's like bread. You always add some sugar and some salt. But I always prefer to just, skip that part because, I learned with the time that people that have high blood pressure, even if they do like diet and they reduce their salt intake, if they do not take out this from their bread, it's like they didn't do anything because the bread will always add the number of salt intake to their diet. So it just since my dad had high blood pressure, we started removing those from our baking. So since then I've been like let's be a little bit precautious and remove it too. So this is why I remove it. So now
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
just
I've had this as a, like, instead of baking it as a bread, I've had this like as a pudding.
yes, you can have
Semolina
it.
pudding, like,
You can have it as a pudding too, but it cooks differently. We can do that another day.
And it could even be a porridge if you wanted to with that.
So what we are going to do is once everything gonna, be ready to start to be cooked, I'm gonna divide the paste to 3 pieces. One gonna stay plain. The other quarter gonna be with olive and the other quarter with cheese. And I'm gonna show you how we can add those to, the semolina bread, and it's still gonna be, something that you can have during breakfast time.
you make
So now
three, 3 kinds of bread.
what?
You said we're making 3 kinds of bread?
Yeah.
Or just, oh, okay.
Yeah. From one mixture.
You're going to divide the dough up after you mix it.
Yes, I'm gonna divide it.
So far in my bowl, I just have the dry ingredients of the flour and the baking powder.
Correct. So I'm
And a
gonna,
little salt and a little sugar if you want.
yeah, if you want. So I'm just mixing to combine the salt, the butter and the oils, and I'm gonna start pouring and mixing at the same time. And I want my semolina to embrace the butter. I want it to be all coated. I don't want to have dry semolina there. It's gonna be crumbled at the end. It's like when you make a cheesecake and you mix, the cracker with the butter.
The cracker crust, yeah.
So you don't want your butter to be too cold?
Well, she melted it.
I melted.
Melted her butter, so obviously it's not cold. Yeah.
Yeah, I melted mine on the stove top and she did it in the microwave.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now I think I put too much oil. Add a little bit of flour in.
We want it to be crumbly, but we want it to be like all coated. I see that I still have some left, so I need to add a little bit more oil. So we add very little oil because it's the one that I didn't add much of it. Yes. Yeah. Give me milk in the fridge. See, now it's all crumbly, as you can see, and you can notice that it's all coated with oil.
So no liquid except butter and oil.
There's no liquid except the milk right now that you're gonna add.
I think she added a little water. Or no, I don't know.
Well, no water because we're gonna add a bunch of milk.
No water.
Oh, okay.
My mom makes it with water, but obviously I prefer the milk. My mom has a PD version. So she make all at the same time, I cook it at the same time, but I prefer to make it the traditional way.
She said, you said she makes it with water instead of milk?
Yes, and she make it and cook it at the same time. She don't let it set or absorb or anything. But and it has a specific taste to it. It's good. I like it because I grew up with that recipe.
So you
But
don't
I
you
make
don't
it-
have to let it set out? I mean, it's better, but you don't have to if you're in a hurry.
Yes, if you are in a hurry, but I prefer with the milk. It's different story because we need the milk to absorb. Otherwise, it's gonna release its sugar if you cook it right away, and it may burn.
Okay.
Can you pour for me? So I'm gonna start pouring the milk. Just shoot. We don't want it to be too keep going. We don't want it to be hard as a like a dough, and we don't want it to be too I mean too
Liquidy.
soft or liquid, yeah.
Not too wet.
Too wet. That's correct. See, I poured and I mixed and I keep pouring until I have the right texture. Like right now, it's not assembled yet and it's still, hard as a texture. Here, I think I have the right texture. As you see, I can, easily massage it, if you can say it that way. But it's become like one texture. Okay. And then just
This
making
is
sure.
really creamy. It's almost like there's eggs added to this, how creamy this is.
Yeah. So I will let it set and absorb a little bit. Maximum is half an hour. We don't want it too dry.
But again, if you're in a hurry, you can.
I mean, personally and honestly, I never did cook it right away.
Okay.
It's not rising like a bread with yeast.
It is not. It is not just because we want the semolina to absorb the milk.
Mhm.
Because that way it cooks easily. But if you don't let it set and absorb the milk and you cook it right away, it's caramelized more and it's hard for it to cook through because it's still wet and the milk burns because it's sugar. It has its own natural sugars. So I prefer to do it this way. My mom doesn't put milk in it, just add water.
Okay. Set that aside and let it set.
Yes, I'm gonna put my gloves in the side. Meanwhile, while waiting for that, we will start with heating the water. You can cover it if you want to, just leave it as it is. I will cover it. Sure.
I forgot to ask you, what do you call this bread?
It's called Harsha. It's called Harsha, Harcha. And why it is called Harsha? Simply because the texture is a little rough in the touch at the end. So if you don't like a rough touch, like my daughter, she don't like to eat it because it's rough with her skin. When she holds it, it's become a little crumbly, and then it's all breaks down a little bit. Just like couscous, you have pieces that goes everywhere. So she don't like that. So harsha means something rough in touch, something not soft. So the name basically means the texture of the semolina bread at the end. And for the tea, I'm just gonna start reheating my water. You can do the same too.
How often do you make this bread? I mean, do you like make it once a week and then you eat it whenever you want a snack kind of deal, or?
I make it as much as I feel like I want. I want to make it. Actually, it's very easy. Mostly during the weekends because I know we're gonna all be together and having breakfast together. The kids gonna be around, and so I make it mostly during the weekend. But it doesn't exclude that sometimes I make it also during the afternoons, late afternoons. We have it as like a break. We use it as a snack with the tea. But it's mostly during the weekend. It's for me, I'm saying. But in Morocco, you can have it every day. It doesn't,
Do you always make it fresh, or does it stay good for a few days?
What I do, like for example, during Ramadan, which is the month that we need to fast. So what we make a lot of preparation ahead. So I make a lot of small semolina bread. Like I have like.
So are you baking this, or is this like on the griddle?
It's on the stove on a pan.
So this is a griddle cake. We call it in English a griddle cake. We call that.
Okay, so as a griddle cake, but it's not gonna have any cake texture. It's gonna be very hard from the both sides, and it's gonna be soft from the inside. You can, cut it in two pieces, put butter and jam, or butter and honey, and yeah, it's very good, especially with butter. I love it. But you can make the smaller version, as you can have a big, griddle. Or you can have the small ones, and I prefer the small ones because I can keep them in the freezer. And if I need some during the breakfast or when I'm hungry, I just can, reheat it in the microwave, and it's already, there. I don't have, so I make like big amounts or big quantities, so I don't have to worry about it if I'm craving it, for example.
I lived in Mexico and they make this and it's called a gordita, which means little fat ones. It's the same.
Yeah, gordita, yes. La gorda, it means like, yes, big, yes.
Yeah.
I understand. So let's start. I will put my water, as I said, to reheat. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look up semolina, but I think it's just, a pasta. So let's see.
Well, it's flour that's not ground real super fine. I think that's the difference.
Because, I mean, couscous is an actual pasta.
Yeah, it's actually made from the same thing. It's too thin. Because couscous, we call it, it's the same name. Just this one is the thin semolina, and the couscous is the medium size semolina. It's the same thing. Because, the couscous that you may be familiar with is the big couscous at Walmart, but it's not the real couscous of Morocco. If you want to know the real couscous, the real couscous of Morocco, it's way smaller than that. Let me show it to you, though.
Yeah, I think the one couscous is chopped up pasta, and then the real one is the durum wheat, the hard wheat.
Yeah, it's made from wheat, and usually they used to make it from scratch. I mean, centuries before. But now there is, factories and stuff like that that make it in the easy way with machines. But let me show you how couscous looks in Morocco. How the semolina is medium size, and how it's similar to what I'm using right now. Give me 1 second.
All right. Yeah, I come across that myself because, I tend to be gluten sensitive, and some things they call couscous is 100% straight up pasta. And then the other one is the grain, and the grain I can handle more. So
this is already prepared couscous.
Yeah, I buy it like this.
I see.
See?
Huh.
And this is how it is. It's like very thick sand.
it almost looks like millet, like the grain millet. Yeah.
So, okay. And you just cook it.
I love couscous salad.
Yeah, I know. I think you are more familiar with the couscous that is in Walmart, which is bigger.
Yeah, we call that Israeli couscous.
I know. I didn't want to say it, but yes, it's exactly that.
It's like, but I think that's more chopped up pasta, but I'm not sure. So,
I mean, let's Google it if it was not using my phone.
so
I
my
will
water is almost boiling,
Good.
and with this we're doing. So I have, well, I was gonna say fresh mint, but it's not fresh. It's fresh dried. So I grew a bunch and picked it and dried it. This is, so I drink a lot of mint tea myself. I feel like it gives me energy and relaxes me at the same time. That's what I find with mint. And so this right here is just absolutely amazing. Like, so, and otherwise I have the green tea just, but this one says decaffeinated. So green tea itself has a little bit of caffeine in it.
A little bit, not a lot.
All right. Now, do you bring it to a boil and then turn it off and then put your herbs in it? Or do you put the herbs in it while it's boiling?
So basically, I'm reheating my water, and then I have the teapot. I will put the green tea first. Then I will put the water second. I will rinse the green tea. It will allow the grain to release any chemicals they have. And at the same time, allow them to open a little bit because they're dry. And then I will pour that water. And then I will repeat that operation about 2 to 3 times before pouring completely the water.
I'm worn out. So much work for tea?
I mean, it's not that much, you get used to it, or you can do like I do. Just, fill it with water, put 1 teaspoon of green tea, add the mint. What you do with the mint, basically, if you wanted to release more flavor, is you break it down with your hands or cut it down with your hands so it will release more oil and more flavor, and then you pour it there. And then you add sugar, you mix everything, you let it cook and steam, and you let it boil basically, and it needs to go a little bit over your teapot. So it's when it's ready, and then you let it set. You turn off the heat and you let it set for a while.
Okay, my water is boiling already.
Okay,
Right.
so what we can
tell me the complicated way again.
It's not complicated
Okay.
at all. It just
the proper way.
It's just you rinse your green tea in case it has chemicals to it, or because it's dry. You're gonna help the green tea, release more and open up. And if there is any chemicals, as I said, you're gonna get rid of as much chemicals as you can. So you're gonna rinse it 2 to 3 times before you pour the water completely in that teapot. And then you let it a little bit, cook on top of the stove. You let it a little bit boil, and then you will add the sugar and the mint. And after
So you add the mint at the end.
At the end, yes, because
Okay.
you want it
Now
to
you are doing fresh mint?
I'm not having fresh mint either, since my garden, my backyard garden, I mean, it was frozen, so it's all dead. I have some dried mint. I'm gonna add verbena too. I have fresh verbena though. I still have it, so I have some plants here.
Okay.
But before we do that, we need at least to start making the harsha, or the semolina bread, because otherwise you're gonna make the tea way before and it can cool off.
Okay.
And you don't want to drink your tea cold. I know. So
All right, let's make this bread.
Yeah,
You said Harsha.
Harsha, yeah. Yeah, but I want to come to this side. Can you see?
Now, the only olives I had were these black
can
olives
use-
in a can.
Yes, you can use black olives, green olives, Moroccan olives, whatever you have available. Can I help you? Wait a second. Okay. I'm gonna put my gloves in, and can I have some gloves? You will need some semolina still, because you wanna drizzle a little bit your pan with the semolina, because like that, when you put the harsha on the same on the pan to cook, it's not gonna stick to the butter.
All right. At what temperature do you have the pan? Like,
Usually I put 3, 4.
so not very hot.
No.
Okay.
So I'm gonna divide my harsha. I'm gonna take the big part. I'm gonna divide it also by 2. So I'm gonna add my olives to this.
So are you making 3 different ones now, or
Yes,
all
a
the same?
normal one, olive one, and a cheese one. Just like a squeeze it with you.
So in your bowl, you've divided it into 3 sections?
Yes. See? A big section, which is the normal one that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna just cover all the pan with it. And the small ones, I'm gonna just make them with one with cheese and one with green olives today. But you can use
When you
black olive
said
or-
cheese, you mean cream cheese, right?
Yes.
You said
See?
cream cheese. All right. I am getting. I have to open my cream cheese and open my can of olives.
You don't need much though, because it's gonna be inside the harsha. It's not gonna be mixed with it or anything. So you're gonna make your harsha bowl. You're gonna put a square or a small piece of it inside, then close it, close the edges back, and flatten it. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, show me
I
one.
will show you, of course.
Yeah. I think it's trying to think what papusa. There's a
What?
culture that they do papusas, which means like a papoose, like a baby in a blanket. I think
Papoose?
it's called papusa.
Papusa,
Yeah, so
Which
you
one?
put like the baby inside the blanket,
right? I don't know. I never
but you're
heard that.
just mixing everything right into the bread.
Yeah, this here it just the olive.
How many olives did you put in there? It doesn't matter.
I
Just
mean,
the
for a small amount, I'm just making. I believe I used around 7 to 8 green
you
olives.
put too
that
many
I
olives
cut
in it?
Around 8, and I cut them small pieces. No.
If I
And
put
what
too many olives, can you put too many olives or no? It just,
I mean, you want just the taste. You don't want it to be 100% olive. It's just because you don't want it to burn, especially if there's an olive from the.
I think if you put too many olives, it might be too wet also.
It's not gonna be too wet because you're not gonna put the water. It just you remove the water and you put the olive. So I flatten it a little bit in here just because I want to show you how I do it. I just take a small ball like this
Okay.
and I cut it like that to shape it like a small semolina bread.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Oh, thank you. So we have like this.
I'm not taking a picture of I'm not showing you mine. You will be the picture.
No problem. So I keep doing it with the other one I have until I finish. Let me grab just a plate. So I'm gonna put the ones that I have ready here in a plate, but usually you would need to put it straight directly in the. Can I help? In the pan. What I'm gonna do here is just I'm gonna pour a little bit of semolina, drizzle it over the plate because I don't want my dough
So you
to
don't
stick.
even put any, you don't put any oil in the pan
No.
because you have so much oil in the flour.
Yeah, it has already oil, so we don't need.
Oh, can I help you?
Yes, you can hold it. Just fast. Just a little bit.
And the other one, you were putting cream cheese in it.
Yeah. Okay, so I could did flatten this one. We can do the same thing.
How much cream cheese? Like a half of container? Or,
Oh no,
let's see, that would,
let's you take a
How many?
like a small square, like let's say 1 tablespoon.
oh,
خلي واحد open it for me.
I think. How thick? It's only, Fred, how thick do you think she's making it? Like an inch thick?
Yes. Yes.
Or how many millimeters, right, for you, yeah?
It's like 1 centimeter, half a centimeter to 1 centimeter.
About a half an inch.
So in here, I'm like I'm taking another piece from the dough that I divided earlier. Let's say that
I always make such a mess when I'm baking.
I do the same thing and my husband gets mad.
Or not when I'm baking, when I'm doing things with flour.
أعطيني معلقة. So I flatten it a little bit. I'm gonna reduce the amount. So I flatten it a little bit.
Can you do it?
Yes, give me a big tablespoon, a big spoon. Like fill it out. عمرها مزيان. Okay. So I'm gonna take a spoon of cheese. I'm gonna put it here in the middle. I'm gonna close the edges.
And then you're gonna flat it.
Like this.
Can I flat it?
Say no.
Okay.
So I'm having like a small bowl. So I'm gonna flatten again. See?
Yep. Let's see. If that was corn flour, we'd call that what, an arepa. Another
So
culture, right?
I'm gonna do the same with the other one. Same thing with the rest. Wow. I'm gonna close everything. Like this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Enough. Right. So this is our 2 varieties, but now I'm gonna turn the camera to the stove and we're gonna start making, you know, the normal. We can start cooking basically. Okay. Let me switch the camera.
And you never fry these. You're just
No,
you're like baking them on the stovetop.
we do not fry them. No, it's not part of the deal. Do not fry them. Okay. Okay. So we turn my heat between 2 and 4. I'm going to take the computer with me.
And then put a little flour in the pan to keep it from sticking.
Yes, I'm gonna drizzle some. Okay. I'm gonna drizzle some. You will need a big plate so we can flip it.
So you don't use a spatula to flip it, you flip it off of there onto a plate?
The big one that I'm gonna make, you will need a plate. The spatula, it can work for the small ones. You do not need a plate for the small ones. Yes, yes.
What kind of flour do you put?
That's semolina flour, the same
Same.
special flour.
Can I use corn flour?
Yes, you can use corn flour. I never tried it with corn flour. I had people who did. They said it was fine, but it stays better with the semolina.
I think it'll take longer to cook with corn flour.
I believe what I heard is it comes more as a cake texture than what it's gonna be with, the semolina.
Okay, so let's see here. Green tea.
Okay. So I'm taking a decent amount. I still have a little bit here. And I start flattening in the pan while, trying to, make the edges as even as possible because they will start breaking out as you see here. So you start, make it as round as possible. Yeah, a little bit. You will also need a plate with
Have you ever baked that in the oven? It's always on the stove, yeah?
it's always on the stove. You can't bake it in the oven. You make it in a cake version. There is a cake version of it.
And are you only cooking it on one side?
Both sides. This is why we
Okay.
need the plate, because we're gonna flip it.
Got it.
Hey, I think it's like look at me. That one.
What other versions do you make? So we made an olive one and we made a one
Cheese.
with a chunk of cream cheese in it.
Yes, and this one is a plain. It's the normal one.
So is there any other versions? Different flavors of olives, of course.
Yes, different flavors of different kinds of olives. And we make it with khleh, which is meat basically, and it's preserved meat that we dry in the sun and then we cook with fat. Or there is a new way to cook it for people who have cholesterol. So just where there is a new way to cook it that's brief. Yes, you can put meat in it. It's very salty meat.
Do you ever put any other flavors in it? Like herbs or spices?
Yes, I put you can put oregano, what I like to put in is fennel seeds, ground fennel.
Ooh,
You can add
that sounds
vanilla.
good.
You can add if you put it in a sugary version, you can add a little bit of blossom water. Or there is blossom water, sugar flavor. It's there.
Like a rose water or an orange blossom water.
It's orange blossom water, not even rose water. The other one.
But even though it's savory, you serve it with jam or syrup or not?
I mean, the salty version, which is with the meat, it's mainly either eaten as it is, or you can drizzle some olive oil on top of it, and I like to eat it with to have like scrambled eggs on top of it with some olive oil drizzle, and I add also a little bit of olives.
Okay, so it's more savory than sweet.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
like the
with-
cream
with
cheese
the-
one, you could
the cream
serve that
cheese-
with
the cream cheese
jams
you
or
can-
fruit.
Yeah, the cream cheese, it's, I mean, I'm talking about how we do it in Morocco, but you know, tastes are different. So like with the cheese one, I will personally add honey or jam, or even, you know, add scrambled eggs and make it salty if I want to, or make it sweet if I desire. So it depends on how you want to eat it that day.
And that plate is for turning it.
So
Oh,
now
there you
I
go.
heat-
It's
I
starting to cook enough, and it's not sticking to the pan. Yeah.
right, exactly.
If
So
you're a
I-
real professional chef, you just do it like this and flip it in the pan.
Oh, it's gonna break because it's not.
I
Now,
have
even if
tried that before, and every time I try to do something like that, I break it
That's why she
I
has
mean,
her
I do
plate.
it.
or I miss the pan.
I do it with the omelet, but this one and with its texture, I do not advise it.
Yeah.
So right now, since it started cooking, you can see that there is some bubbles coming, which means that the dough is started to cook even through, that the heat is going, you know, inside of
That's
the
what we
dough.
look for in a pancake also. The bubbles. In
Yes,
America,
but it's not.
we
It's
look
not
for
the
the
same as
bubbles
the
in
pancake.
pancake.
Yeah, it's not the same as the pancake, but you see that it's getting puffy from some edges. So what I'm gonna do right now, and you see also, you notice that with the heat, it starts releasing more oil, so it's more shiny from the top. So it means it's cooking, you're going in the right direction. So what I'm gonna do right now, so to allow it to cook perfectly, when I flip it, I'm gonna drizzle again semolina.
Aha.
This is why I'm telling you.
Sorry, because that side's going down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's gonna help it to not stick, and it's gonna absorb the oil too.
Yeah.
And it helps getting, I mean, the harsha getting a nice
Hey,
color.
or watch while the flip is going.
So I'm putting the
Ta-da.
plate here, and I'm gonna just do it in here. I don't know if you
No,
see
I
it.
want to see.
No, because it's gonna. Okay, I was going to show you from the other camera.
There we go.
Ta-da! Oh,
Look at
wow.
that. Perfect.
I thought
So
it would
now-
really stick.
And now back in
No.
the pan.
So now
Okay, the
back.
secret is to slide it
Put
in
more
there without breaking.
semolina on top and more olive oil before she flipped it.
So now I'm just gonna let it cook from the other side. And then when I start feeling that it's hard enough from the other side, I'm not gonna let it, you know, be too golden and brown. Because I want the right golden brown color like here. I will flip it again, because by flipping it, it will keep cooking, especially from, you know, inside. And at the same time, it's gonna be more crispier from, you know, from the outside. And this is what we are looking for.
If it's not cooked very well in the center, is it soft or is it chewy?
It's gonna just break a lot. It's not gonna have the right, you know, texture at the end. It's not gonna be easy to handle and to eat.
Thank you very much. I have to go because I have another show starting, but it was very nice. I enjoyed it.
No problem. Thank you for joining us.
See you later, Fred.
See you Zoom. Mm.
Don't you need to put a little bit flour before, because you put on the pasta and then you flip on after?
Can you please repeat? I didn't hear from the beginning.
You don't need to put flour on the pan to flip the pasta, the bread. You don't need to put flour on the pan
Why?
Because you flip the bread, but you didn't put flour on the pan. You put
I did.
on the bread before.
No, at the beginning, I put the flour on the pan and I started spreading the dough on top of the pan. I started spreading the dough in the pan. It was not still hot enough, so it was easy for me to spread it. And then that way it's not gonna stick to the pan, even if it's a non-stick, but it gives the best texture and best crispiness. And then to flip it, because what happened if then the second time when I flip it, first of all, it's not gonna slide easily if I do not spread, the semolina on top of the bread. It's not gonna slide easily from the.
So it'll
from
stick to the plate, yeah.
Yes, and second, the pan is hot enough now. So if I drizzle on top of the pan, it's just gonna burn it instead of just making.
Okay, so if you just sprinkled the flour on the pan, it would burn.
Yes, this is why the second time I did not, spread it on top of the pan. But the first time I did spread it on top of the pan was still cold or a little warm, and then I started spreading the dough, with the fan shape to make it fit. And you can see here, that the semolina that I spread it at the beginning is still, still is stuck to the edges. So now I'm gonna flip it again.
I have a question for completely unrelated. The olive juice that comes in the can of olives, do you ever use that for anything?
No, I don't like it, honestly.
I don't like wasting anything, but it's got so much salt in it that I have a hard time thinking.
Okay.
I've used it before to flavor a bread, but
the only tip I can give you is if you have pickles or olives or a pickled, cucumber or pepper or anything, that's the water that came with them, you can, pickle something else while using that same water. But for black olives, I do not use it at all. First of all, it's dark. I don't know. It doesn't encourage me to do anything with it.
okay. I thought I would ask because that is one thing I keep trying to figure out what I can use that olive juice because it has a good olive flavor. But it's so salty.
But if it's green olives, you can use it to pickle something with it. But if it's black olive, I don't know. It does not encourage me to do anything with it, honestly. And I never thought about it, to be honest, too.
Yeah.
See, I flip it. This is the second side. So I flip it again to the other side, and we're gonna keep flipping it just to help it cook, and we don't want it to burn. See, it's become hard in the both sides. So I'm using how do you call this? Remind me.
Tissue paper,
From the kitchen. So
paper towels.
Yes. So why I'm gonna
Like I forgot my English too.
So why I'm gonna use it? It's because it's too hot. It's gonna start sweating, and we don't want it to get wet from the bottom. Okay. So I'm gonna just.
So which kind is easier to cook? It seemed like the plain one would be easier if the.
No, it's all the same actually. It's all the same. I'm just gonna remove this from the heat because it's gonna be too hot for me. See, I'm cooling off a little bit the pan because now that I'm gonna put the semolina and the pan is too hot, it's gonna start turning brown very quickly. So I'm putting again some semolina. See, it started to cook even if it's not on the stove. And I'm gonna put the green olives and 1 cheese. And I can flatten a little bit if I
I
see
heard-
that's a little bit too thick. Okay. I'm gonna reduce the heat again, leave it in 2 because the pan is too hot and we don't want them to, just cook too quickly and not cook through. So I'm reducing the heat to 2. We're gonna let this cool off. I'm gonna just grab some verbena that we have, and we can start making the tea while this is cooking. And the cooking, process is the same. It just as I said, for those since they're small, we just need a spatula instead of a plate, so we can just flip them easily. But you need to be careful though, because it's very delicate when it's still cooking. Okay, I'm just gonna grab some.
I think what I ended up making was what they call fry bread in the States and bannock in Canada. Except maybe they don't have olive oil or, canola oil in it.
So this is the verbena that I was telling you about. So I have some fresh leaves in here, and I also have dried mint, like 2 to 3 kinds, like variety. So I'm gonna grab some, put everything in here for me to use. I like to have a good amount of mint, especially when it's dry. I feel like the mint loses its flavor. The mint is very good when it's fresh. So I'm gonna put it in the side. And while this cooking, we'll start making the tea. So this is my teapot. I already heated the water. So this is an empty teapot, as you can see. I'm gonna put 1 teaspoon of green tea, and this is Moroccan green tea. It's called Sultan. The Sultan. So I'm gonna make 1 teaspoon. I'm using a big spoon here, but I'm just filling it half, using half of the amount. And so now we start rinsing. So we pour the very hot water, as you can see. It's still steaming. At the same time, do not forget the semolina bread. I will drizzle again. I will have some semolina on top.
Teapot is beautiful, huh?
So I'm gonna just flip it and keep doing that until it's cooked. I'm just gonna reduce the heat because the pan is too hot. Until I reach the right temperature. So back to the teapot. So I will rinse the green tea and pour. Do it twice. As I said, it's gonna help the leaves to open, and at the same time, it's gonna remove all the dirt and chemicals. And okay. So now As you, I don't know if you can see it. It's a little dark, but okay. Some leaves started opening already. It's not, they're not shrinked as much as they were, and I'm gonna add my water. Okay. We're gonna turn on the heat to high. We need it to start boiling again before we can add any milk. At the same time, I'm still flipping the semolina bread to help it cook. Now that my pan temperature decreased a little bit, I'm gonna get my temperature back to where it was, which is between 2 and 4, and watch my small bread very closely. Our first semolina bread was a success. It's ready, and we just have to cut it and put it in a plate. It does make a lot of mess because we have a lot of crumbles, and you know, I'm gonna grab a plate and start. And also take knife. Preferably a big knife because it's easier to cut that way. I will start by cutting this. I'm gonna do a pizza cut. Okay. Okay. And now I'm gonna start plating it. Let's not forget about our small semolina breads, the ones with olives and the ones with cheese. And then just start. It fell off. Let me put it. Oops, that's all.
It's okay, huh?
Yeah.
Modern.
Glad it was not. I'm glad it was not on top of the teapot.
Didn't fall in the teapot.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Oh no, he didn't want to. Gonna find an alternative. Yeah.
This tea smells amazing.
Yes, I agree. So now that starts to boiling. So the semolina bread first round. Harsha.
I will let you take the picture for tonight. So
Okay.
much better than me.
So for the teapot, it's steaming, it's boiling. You cannot see it, but I can. And my Harsha is ready too. So those are ready. So I'm gonna remove them from the stove. I'm gonna wait until my pan is cool enough to cook the rest, because otherwise it's just gonna not give me a nice color. Okay. So now that is boiling, as you can see. I don't know if you see, yes. Now I'm gonna add dried mint. And fresh verbena, and I'm gonna start cutting it with my hand, as I told you, to release the oils. And you can do as much mint as you want, as much verbena as you want. It doesn't hurt, it just gives more stronger flavor. And we need to mix this out, because with the hot water boiling like this, if a leaf stays outside of the water, it burns, it becomes black. And the taste, it's not quite good actually. So we need really to make sure that you are mixing up and putting, you know, all the mint inside the water. So now we're gonna let it boil again. And normally it should, you know, boil to a degree where it's gonna come out from the teapot.
Yeah, it seems like this could be something. Do you ever make the flour ahead of time, and then you could just have it in the fridge and just take it out and make a couple cakes real quick?
Never tried, never did. But since it's a baking powder, I do not advise any, you know, to leave it in the fridge. Maybe to leave it in the freezer, as we do with a normal dough. But then you need to wait for it to defrost. And I believe that it's quicker to make it from scratch than to wait for it to defrost. Then, but if you know, you make it with a big quantity, as I told you, and freeze it, you can just grab a small piece like this and put it in the microwave, or let it just, you know, defrost on top of your kitchen counter, and then just reheat it in a pan after that. So my tea is ready. I'm just gonna leave it rest a little bit and infuse a little bit more. I'm gonna grab a plate. I'm gonna, you know, just put my small. This one is olives and cheese and olives again. It makes a lot of mess because it's all crumbly and it has small, you know, semolina flour everywhere. Okay, so this is the final result. Let me switch back to this table. So this is my teapot. I'm gonna remove one to put the one on the stuff in here. This is how normally a teapot plate should look like. We have a lot of glasses, as you can see, and it's mostly, you know, flipped to the bottom. They're clean and flipped to the bottom. When you have a guest come in, even if it's 3 people, you're gonna bring a plate with 10 cups. So, but make sure when you have a guest come in, you put the cups like this. You flip them back to their normal, you know, how they should be. Do not put them like this, because like this just for protection, to keep them clean. Okay, let me just reorganize my stuff here so we can have, as I said, a clean final picture.
And did you say ham?
You're cutting up.
Maybe a combination. The movie wasn't that.
Or you're cutting up. I didn't hear what you were saying.
First of all, way better than expected. Better than first. So much more to offer. And a species character.
I'm just reduce the number of cups because I'm gonna put
I mean, you're telling me that any of this.
You serve it with jam.
jam, honey, olives.
You're in stereo, or I can hear you twice.
Still?
Oh, say something. I think you've improved.
I don't know. I
Oh,
try
that's
to
better. Yeah, that's better.
I try to improve, but
There's just one of you.
there's no echo.
So I'm having another plate where I'm gonna put basically my jam, my olive oil, or my honey, depends on what you have or what you want to serve or what you like. So in my case today, since I'm a big fan of olive oil, I'm going to put a bowl of honey, olive oil, and black olives. So this is basically a very quick, Moroccan breakfast when you have it, or you can buy the harsha from a bakery, and then you just have, to have your honey, your olive oil, your olives, or you can have jam, you can have cheese, scrambled eggs. But this is what we have now. And when we need to pour, the tea, normally they say the higher you pour the tea, the more welcome your guest is.
So when you say high, you try to pour it from way up high into the jar. Up, way
High,
down.
yeah. But I'm not gonna do it today. I don't want to stain my stuff. So I'm just gonna.
Oh wow, you can still pour it from. You were pouring it from like 1.5 feet away still.
Yeah, but it's the habit. So basically we just make half of the cup. I mean, just we fill half of the cup. Why? Because simply we need the other half to be empty so we can hold that cup because it's too hot. We can add more mint into your tea if you want it, into your cup. You can add more mint. You can add more sugar if you want it too sweet. What I forgot to tell you is when we add the mint to the teapot, we add the sugar too at the same time. But since today, as I said, we skipped the sugar.
Do you ever serve let the tea cool down and serve it, or you always serve it hot?
It needs to be hot.
Okay.
I don't like it personally, but you can. I know that I have one of my uncles like to put it in a glass bottle and put it in the fridge and have it as an iced tea. But personally, I don't like it. It just.
You don't ever serve it in like a coffee cup where it's got the handle.
Yes, you can do whatever you want. When I'm
but
just me.
That
and
little glass
is
really nice, yeah.
Yeah, me and my husband just the normal cup, but now to make it fancy and explain to you the tradition, I brought the
All right.
big.
Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Radia as we wrap this up? Just like.
Do you want me to cut the harsha for you so you can see the cheese inside?
Ooh. You wanna tease us, huh?
I don't know. Or you want me to send you pictures of it so I can take, first of all, a nice
you
picture?
could take pictures of it and post it.
Okay.
Send it to me or post it to the group, because you have a proper breakfast display.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I do.
It's just like, any final compliments to
It
the
looks
chef?
so beautiful. I hope
Otherwise,
someday
I
I
will-
can go to Morocco and have a Harsha breakfast. Thank you very much.
Where you're welcome to Illinois, to Carbondale. I can make you harsha. You don't have to go to Morocco, but you're welcome to go if you wanna, discover the culture and enjoy it.
Mm.
This one is olive, this one is cheese, and this one is the normal kind. And basically, how we eat harsha, which I forgot to say, you need to open it from the middle like this, and then you spread your your butter and everything, whatever you want.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh man, that tastes good.
So much.
Thank you very much. Now
You're
the I just forgot how you say it. Harsha?
harsha.
Harsha, do you serve that hot or do you let that cool down? Which is better?
Basically warm.
Okay.
I like it when it still can make the buttermilk. I like that.
And
But
if you cook it the day before, then you warm it back up. Yeah.
yeah, but you can have it cold too.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much. Well,
Problem. Thank you.